Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. It is that time of year when we do a little bit of reflection and futuristic look ahead. So this week's episode with Charles Love of ShowTech Solution and Joshua Smith of Reliaquest. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Hello, hello.
So we've done this now. This is the third year running that we've done a look back at 2020. Well, we haven't done this three times for this particular year, but we've done 3 years in a row of looking back at the previous year. And I thought this year might be a little bit different than others, but as we were talking about before we started recording, that Josh, maybe you are a little bit more pessimistic than I anticipated. And you were also the only one that did homework for this episode. So Josh, give us your look behind. Like what things did you see that you can reflect on?
Yeah, well, I wanted to do a quick Google search because I feel like so much has happened in 2023 that sometimes I think, oh wait, that happened this year? I feel like that happened 2 or 3 years ago. It's mostly around ransomware. Right?
Did you click on the sponsored links on your search results?
Sponsored by ransomware, yes.
Right.
At this point, I kind of feel like the overall vibe of people that I talk to is that like, ransomware is still important, but people kind of think that we're getting our arms wrapped around it. And, when you look at the statistics, it's not ramping down. I feel like it's ramping up, but trying to be a little bit positive, Chris. Maybe that's just due to more folks reporting it, more, new regulations around needing to report these things in filings. So maybe it's not on the upward swing, but maybe we're just kind of being made aware of it more. That's my pseudo positive spin ?
Wow, pseudo positive spin ? Charles, what do you got? What's your quick look back?
So it's been a year of change, right? For the most part.
Sure.
There have been attack vectors that we haven't seen before.
Right.
We're seeing more of the supply chain type attacks, IoT type attacks, things that we weren't really seeing. I mean, last year it kind of hit, but this year it's really become been brought to the forefront.
So Charles, I mean, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with what Josh said. We're seeing are we really maturing? If the threat, the news is reporting on just a plethora of things that were like, wow, it was like more than 4 things or 40 things or 400 things. But I think you hit something, Charles, is this, I think the threat landscape has changed so that if you think about IoT devices just that are out there, there's far more IoT devices at this point than there are desktops and laptops. And the reality is, I think, I don't want to say we're becoming more mature, but I think collectively, the world around us is becoming more educated to the threat, to what is possible from a damaging perspective. End users now want to know that there's some sort of protections in place, whereas before they're like, doesn't it just come with that? Like, isn't that just out of the box protecting me? But to your point, you add the IoT in, and man, this is a whole new world, and we don't really have a lot of control as a consumer over securing those devices, and yet we can still be victims of the compromise regardless of how well we might have configured the box.
Yeah, and we're seeing all kinds of new security measures, right, because of that.
Right.
Like you call a vendor and now it's, hey, I have to email you a PIN before we can even talk.
Right.
I'm like, but I've called you for the last year. You know exactly who I am. We're Facebook friends. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Which my profile? My process is I have to send you a PIN that you have to basically respond back with. We never would have thought of that 2 years ago.
No,
last year, I can't think of anybody last year aside from like GoDaddy who would ever verify you with some type of PIN or 2-factor, something like that.
Right. I mean, those are some serious things we're running into that are net new. Yeah, Josh.
Well, that's because this is the year, of easily to consume AI, right? A year ago, I wouldn't have to have said, Charles, what was that street we first met on? You know, you wouldn't have to kind of verify someone. You just take them at their word because
You
it
guys met
sounded
on the
like you.
street?
Or yes, we did.
We
Or
weren't
look
supposed to talk
like you,
about that.
right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's not that hard now with some of the more advanced models to take a fairly short clip of someone talking, which you can get off of this podcast,
Yeah.
for example, right? And then create a model of that person enough that you could fool them, you could fool somebody maybe with just an audio connection, and with enough video, enough presentations, enough, recordings, enough, social media videos, you could start to then, make a visual impersonation of them as well. So it's kind of zero trust all around for everybody these days, I think.
Mike, I'll tell you just a funny somebody who we know doesn't do social media, right? Doesn't do Facebook or anything like that. But they're always in webinars. I'm like, that's even worse, right? Because now we have 30 to 40 minutes of you speaking to potentially pull your tonality, your voice, all that stuff. Whereas, you're checking in at the restaurant. Oh, that's a security issue.
Right.
But you pumping out an episode 52 weeks a year. I got potentially thousands of hours that I can play with.
At
It's
least.
scary.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I think this can kind of gets into, what do the three of us know that no one else would know? Like if I mean, I bet we could probably come up with something like, unless the picture's out there. Charles, in
Yeah.
what direction were my feet when we were sitting on that bench
Yeah.
in Clearwater? Like there are ways in which you can trip up AI or trip up a threat actor. But I was just talking about this earlier today. Like, do you remember when we together had the MSP and we used resources like OnForce to put fields on site, and we're like, hey, make sure that you're checking and verifying that they actually have some sort of agreement with Untangled before they start working on your computer. I mean, have we really gotten better today at that? Like, I don't mean us because we don't have Untangled anymore, but I mean, like, Charles, you're still running an MSP. What happens when you send your own guys to go on site? What verifies that that's an employee of ShowTech?
So I'll tell you, for us, we have badges.
Okay.
We have little name tags. Yes, it can be, somebody can copy the name badge, but
Right.
still, it's something, at least something, where there's a certain number on there and there's a number to call, and they can call and validate that person.
Oh, so it goes
So
beyond the name tag, right?
yeah, it goes just a little bit more. It's very rare somebody will actually validate it. We wish everybody would, but
Sure.
if they know the guy, they're not going to validate it every time he shows up. And as a part of our offboarding procedure of an employee, it is mandated that we take your name badge. And if we don't have your name badge, then I have to deal with that. And we refresh the name badges every year. So I just had to take 15 photos in the last week because I wanted everybody to have fresh new faces on their name badge.
Well, so along those lines, it's kind of interesting. So if we think back, let's go back 10 years. It wasn't like really common to be like, oh, I'm just going to use my cell phone and take your picture because that's high quality. So you were spending money on a lot of things that today are just we have them. It's not like it cost us extra to produce a photo. And now there's apps that can make them, do it. There's portrait mode now on your phone. Like
they're all in portrait mode. So
right,
yes.
right. So you're getting that. It's like this is you can use this for your passport. So
Yeah, and let me just say this on the new challenge. I had to reset two-factor at a vendor today. And usually they're like, cool, done, whatever, they just do it. This guy's like, in this one account, how many seats do you have? In this account, what are the names of the sites you've deployed? I was like, holy smokes, like that was pretty good.
yeah,
It was, because usually it's like, hey, can you reset two-factor? Sure, I reset it for you. Like we're starting to see all these extra security measures because of all the nasties that have been happening this last year. So it's I have a big sign in the tech room. It says security is not convenient. Right. And it's just that's the theme of the year.
I think there's a little bit more to that though. I think security is often inconvenient at the beginning. And in some cases there are significant values that come into play that you didn't think about. Like I have my password manager that, because of the evolution of technology, instead of having to type my master password in every time, it pops up and I can, use another device to validate that. So I'm not typing it in all the time. And I think some of the things that we used to say, like, well, I can't do that, I can't get anybody to do that. And all of a sudden they're like, man, I only typed passwords 4 times today. It's like, awesome. But you probably don't know any of those 4 passwords off the top of your head.
Well, I think that's like a bell curve of inconvenience, right?
Sure.
It's still more inconvenient than admin blank password enter,
Oh,
or
that's
admin
fair.
admin,
Right.
right? So that's so. But when we first implement it, everyone hates it because it's such a huge change, and then it gets normalized, and then the technology gets better, and now Chris unlocks his car with his watch, but there's a long road to get
From
there,
the
and it's a very difficult.
Philippines. How did he do that?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult path along the way. Like, even 2FA. Once you get 2FA stood up, sure, it becomes a whole lot easier. But the process of deploying it, getting everybody's device hooked up, maybe like Charles was saying, even resetting, there's still inconveniences along the way. But security, I think, is always going to be a bit inconvenient until we smooth things out. Until you just open up your laptop, the camera sees you, authenticates you, and it's completely touchless. And probably get there with Windows Hello. I'm sure we're already there a bit, but getting that set up, all that is more than just opening your laptop and having it automatically log you in without any authentication, right?
I think this goes back to, are things getting better or worse? So I have 2 observations. One is, I think it is getting better. The conversations over this past year, from, if I look from beginning to this fall and coming into the end of the year, the conversations are more mature. They're asking questions about things that a year or two ago would never happen. Things like using the acronym GRC, like to know about things like governance and risk. That was not part of the vocabulary, and especially in the solution provider space, that have actually, having those conversations today, you're like, wow, what is this conversation that's happening? How long was I out? Right. The other thing that I think is important goes back to what Charles said about IoT and some of these other things that are becoming the new targets. As we mature, threat actors have to look to other places to exploit and steal from their victims. And I think that because of the maturity level starting to climb, the areas that we're going to continue to see exploitation is going to be in areas that we haven't matured yet. And I think that's going to be less tied to people and more tied to what people create and how they create it and what's their motivation. If it's money, then those are areas that are going to constantly be exploited because they're getting something out there that's convenient. We remember when the WPS button was put on a Linksys router, right? Like, hey, look, everything's connected. And now it's like, nah, yeah, no, don't use that. Don't use that for your wireless security, right? So, I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? I look at the things that we're seeing in the news right now. It's IoT, it's OT, but the things that we're seeing that are happening that are really noisy right now: big infrastructure, failure to turn the boat, failure to have the right people in positions of true leadership where decisions are made and enforced. Largely, they were just saying, well, I don't think the risk's that high. And then wham, maybe we should do something different. Wham, we're doing something different, not fast enough. Wham. And now I think you're seeing even that is becoming less broad on verticals, and still they're just targeting, 2 verticals, pretty focused: government and healthcare. Did I miss one?
I mean, we're seeing manufacturing, obviously the energy sector,
Critical
I think,
infrastructure.
yeah, I actually found a pretty cool site that kind of just gives you stats across all ransomware attacks.
Oh, geez.
And I think like retail and manufacturing actually, surprising, was pretty much up there, because they know if they can stop the assembly line, the pain tally starts, right? Every second they're not putting out cans or making boxes, right? That's money lost. So it's a very like 1-to-1, whereas other folks, they can kind of, wiggle around it, or, it's not like an immediate every minute is money kind of situation. So I think manufacturing's getting hit. Plus, like you said, OT and IT are starting to kind of cross streams a little bit, and everyone's playing catch up on that because traditionally you had your OT team and you had your IT team, and it's like chocolate and peanut butter. You never mixed it together before until you did.
That sounds
And
really good.
as delicious as it sounds,
that's a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Yeah,
right
it can be pretty bad. But kind of going back to what Charles was saying, change is a big one. You're saying maturity. But I think what we're seeing also is that technology, maturity of technology is kind of like that rising tide, except the boat is the defenders and the bad guys, right? Everyone's taking advantage of that new technology because we're seeing a lot of interesting stuff that as we plug a hole, the bad guys figure out a new thing, right? Like QR codes and email.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, right.
QR codes, like that's pretty freaking smart, right? And then so now all the vendors are trying to have them to roll out like a new feature that it can read QR codes,
right?
Because they didn't bother before it because no one was taking advantage of it.
It's built into my phone
that we know of, right?
Right. Well, so you need to figure out that website before we end the session. I'll share one that was shared to me by Matt Lee. It is the SSO tax. So if you're not familiar with it, it's what vendors have increased the pricing of their products to account for SSO. So at the top of the list, Airtable, their price point went up 500% at SSO functionality. And they vary all over the place from vendors that you recognize to like Adobe Creative Cloud, 66% increase is the fee being charged to the consumer to have it integrated with SSO. So there's some challenges there too, right? Like the actual cost of doing business, these are some of the things that should probably be included and have probably needed to be included for a very long time. But they're making it clear like, hey, we're just going to pass that cost on to the consumer. So no wonder, if you're an MSP out there trying to convince your clients why they need to pay for something, it's not cheap. So Josh just posted so that we'd have it, cybernews.com/ransom-looker. That's an LOOKER in case you have trouble with my pronunciation. It's looker.
Yes.
Check it out.
Yep. And so just clicking on the US, it's saying over the last year, US is the number one targeted. The most active APT ransomware gang is Lockbit. Top targeted industry is construction. And there's been a total of 1,352 victims. So reported, I assume.
Does that include Lego?
That'd
be a lot. That's a lot
probably
of kids out there
maybe
building
manufacturing
stuff.
Manufacturing, probably. Yeah, would be my guess.
Lego was builder and that kind of thing.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So we talked a lot about negative. I think we've seen some positives and some change in the maturing process. I'll just start with you, Charles. Pick one thing that you saw, whether it was an employee or a client or a vendor, that you're like, this is something that I would have never expected. And 2-3 years ago, there's no way they would have done this. And it has revolutionized or really helped change the way we do business today.
So I'll tell you, for us, I would say PAM solution, right? So 2-3 years ago, everybody was a local admin, right? And over the last year or so, it's really picked up steam with the help of cyber insurance.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said that. But, like the mandation of, no, you can't be a local admin, right? Which, oddly enough, knock on wood, when people aren't local admins, they don't get themselves into so much trouble anymore. Right. And when you read all these cases about these bad things that happened, it's like, they didn't have a PAM solution. They were a local admin, or they had the keys to the kingdom, things like that. I was with a customer the other day, and I was doing something. I'm like, oh, hold on, I have to get somebody to approve what I'm trying to do. And they're like, you're like the ops guy of the company. What do you mean? You can't approve your own stuff? I'm like, no. Right. And that's how it should be. And I look at them, I'm like, you can approve your own stuff? And they're like, well, I'm admin. I'm like, well, that's not good.
Right.
And it's a new conversation. But if I would have said to somebody 3 years ago, hey, we're going to take, 4,000 endpoints across the board, we're going to strip off all your admin access, they'd be like, no way, you're crazy.
But you bring up something interesting, Charles. PAM sophistication, outside of some challenges that were maybe solved a little bit in the enterprise space, PAM didn't exist at an affordable level in the SMB space. And not only that, but there are so many different flavors of, 31 flavors of PAM that shockingly you can find a solution for just about anybody that's resistant to the PAM idea.
Yeah, for sure. But that's been a game changer
Absolutely.
in my opinion.
So it's like the paramount behind cyber hygiene, right? Like if you can solve for not having keys to every door, especially doors that you shouldn't be opening in the first place,
Yep.
you can protect a lot without a lot of effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, Josh?
I mean, I don't even think I have to go back 3 years. I could go back just to the beginning of this year, really. I'm sure at this point everyone's tired of hearing Chat GPT, but I think taking some of those models and then bringing them internal so that
Yeah.
you're not exposing data. So essentially, private LLMs have been a pretty big influence in the security vendor space. I know that we took to it like a duck to water because we have so much information coming at us, and there is like we're always striving to drive down that mean time to resolution. We got to figure out how to get all those little things done, but also kind of do some of the heavier thinking stuff. So where the LLM has come in handy for us is that when there is an event, a bunch of correlation, like our analysts have to spend time like reading everything and then coming up with a summary that can then go to the customer and be part of the record. So we're offloading that now to our private LLM that essentially does the same thing. It takes in all the data and creates a summary of what happened, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the event, right? While the analyst is working on, validating is this malicious, and then coming up with a response play, and then can go. They don't have to then circle back, type up all their notes, build out a summary, right? The LLM is able to take in all this language and make something that makes sense that can be used into the record and used as communication. And I mean, like last year, still today, I try to type words on my phone and it just starts, dropping F-bombs. I'm like, that's not what I was asking for.
It's got little black circles with little fuses coming out of them.
Yeah. So just to kind of see how far that has come in such a short period of time. It's kind of like we're getting to that point where it's just going to be good AI versus bad AI.
Right. There's AI to detect that was created by AI.
Yeah, and it's going to be needed because now we can't just look for misspellings, right? Because the bad guys have the LLMs as well,
same
and they
tools,
can say,
right?
yeah, they can say, hey, build me out this, malicious email, right? And make sure you spell everything correctly.
Sure.
And use proper punctuation. That takes a lot of the wind out of the spot the phishing email science. Now people are going to have to start looking at, typo squatting or all of the subtle little nuances that you kind of go. That you kind of just that's asking a lot more of the user, whereas before it's like, can you please send me the monies? Was a little bit easier for them to report those phishing. So that's, I think, where we're going now is kind of like keep leveraging AI for good, right, and then try to find ways to fight the bad AI. We're in the future. That's all I'm saying.
So it's funny you say that. So you've used it a little bit interchangeably, AI and LLM, and I think, if we would have had this conversation a year or two ago about AI, we would all recognize pretty fast things like the word we use with iPhones and the word you use with Amazon devices, et cetera, that are leveraging that AI, right? But the reality is today, when you say that, people get all kinds of like concerned, like, oh yeah, I don't want any AI with. It's like, well, we've been using it for years. Right, like AI has been a feature or a function of many of the products and services we've consumed for a very long time, but have not really, quote, labeled it. But the LLM part is where that's changed, right? Because now it's not one object; it's now relational with multiple objects, querying and pulling in information that it's able to assemble and reassemble all day long, and you get out of it what obviously you put into it. But the fact that we're recognizing it. So for me, along those lines, mine was, and this can sound weird, I used to use a product called White Smoke, Right Smoke. And it basically was a tool, or sorry, Right Sonic is what it's called. And essentially it's like, maybe you're familiar with Grammarly or some of the tools that are out there to help with like inline, correct your grammar, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But Right Sonic was this product that you could give it prompts, and it would give you like outlines based on what it queried off the internet. You're like, oh, those sound like great topic starters. I should use that. Well, with ChatGPT and some of the other stuff that have come into play,
Yeah.
you can actually write content using tools like that today that no one's going to recognize as having been created by AI, as long as there's a human element that's looking at that going, wait, that's just wrong, and change it to make it correct, right? Like, but it does such a good job of putting the pieces together that, you know, the stuff that you can accomplish today, from whether you're writing blog articles or even writing a book, you can do in a fraction of the time that, you know, allows us to do a lot of other things that we didn't used to have the time for.
Yeah.
We've got about 5 minutes left. We will do another episode before the end of the year that says looking to the future, because I think, you know, we probably shouldn't cover the future in the next 5 minutes. Anything else that you think we should share about what has happened in the last 12 months that we might have missed?
You know, I kind of going back to what I mentioned, I really think the validation of the person you're speaking to is going to change, where we're going to see more push style verification, like something that says, hey, I kind of trust you, but I really don't know who you are.
Right.
I think we're going to see a shift in that next year.
Yeah, well, this isn't the future conversation.
Sorry, I heard future.
But to your point,
but the past, we you know, those who forget about the past are doomed to repeat it, Chris.
That's
so
right, that's
you know,
right,
just
that's right.
poking up. Another big highlight from this year was impersonations, right? With the whole,
Yes.
you know, MGM and other kind of social engineering stuff is becoming a lot more maybe it's always been dangerous, but I think it's getting a little bit deeper into more protected systems. So kind of going back to the, you know, the easiest way in sometimes it's just through the people.
Well, so you say that, and you're thinking about like push verification. So we've seen a lot of that play out this last year as well, and push exploitation, right? Like if I give you push fatigue, eventually you say yes. And I was thinking about so I had Sarah Goffman on a couple weeks back, and we were talking about oh no, my cell phone's been cloned, and like what happens? Like what do the vendors that say are responsible for providing you with the technology that you're using to talk on the phone? And they're like, we're just going to give you an unlimited plan. Like, it's no big deal. Like, don't worry about it. So there's all different kinds of challenges that are happening out there that even the vendors are like, I don't know what to do with this one. Like, so we're not the only ones that are dealing with exploring how do we protect ourselves. Vendors are like, I haven't seen that one before. Like, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with this one. But I think going back to what you said about in the future, whether it's push or some other technology, we know that it's coming. I think the same is true, and we've started to see it play out in the cell phone space, is the eSIM card. You know, SIM swapping is a whole lot harder when it's built into the device. It's hard to swap it when the ID is etched into the hardware. So yeah. All right. Well, this has been a desperate sadness of the past.
The future will be bright. I'll come with all these great, like big, shiny, sparkly ideas about the future.
What's that movie with Will Smith and Jamie Foxx, Bright? Like, I don't think that one was. That was a very dystopian future that all started with.
Sure, like orcs and elves. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about the positives I'm seeing coming out of the dreary events of 2023.
Yes,
like you said, I mean, the SEC's coming in here, the government's bringing more regulations around, so maybe hopefully some
cyber smart, trust mark,
some of those basic items, right?
Yeah.
The boards are becoming more involved. You know, a lot of these things that more were kind of inside baseball before, seeing more exposure to the public, right, with the stuff like the MGM, and they're talking about social engineering. So I think all of that visibility from this year is going to lead to I think more openness and more focus on security, I hope, in the enterprise moving forward. So I am optimistic about 2024, Chris. So, and I will bring that positivity onto the next show.
Well, I expect nothing less. So yeah, stay tuned for before the end of the year. We'll have a future outlook of 2024. Thanks, guys. And for those of you listening, thanks and have a great week.
Bye, Charles.